Welcome to the Commerce Talks podcast. Today, like another industry, again, very interesting perspectives I've gathered today. You're from, I would say, the grocery supermarket industry. Maybe introduce yourself and Alraya.
Nice meeting you. So my name is Frederic Levy-Perrault. I'm French. I'm currently CEO at Alraya Supermarket. Alraya Supermarket is a fairly old supermarket chain in Saudi Arabia because it's 31-year-old, and the advent of modern trade is fairly recent in Saudi Arabia. And this chain of supermarket have some unique aspects. One unique aspect is that it's only present in the western part of the kingdom. That's the first point. Second,
only present western part, like Jeddah area.
Actually, anywhere along the coast from Jordan border to Yemen border.
Okay.
And a second unique trait of Alraya is that Alraya was a pioneer in having stores in smaller towns. So therefore we have a lot of, I would say, country store, supermarket that are in very, very small city in the countryside. And the third unique trait of Alraya is that we have bakeries in each of our stores, and therefore we bake fresh bread for customers, and we highlight the cheapest bread available in the kingdom, which is at 1 rial before VAT. So 1 rial is 20 cents of euro.
But how many bread is it?
So you have 460 grams. So that's
460 grams for like
a lot of value
cents.
for money. And as competition avoid to do this, Alraya does it, and does it with excellent quality, with different type of choice.
Most bread for money. I will note it down as a USP.
Yes, and customers love it. Customers love it. And we have 52 supermarkets.
52?
And my role in this company is that actually the company is a bit of a sleeping beauty. That is, it didn't change for 30 years. And when I say didn't change, it didn't change a thing for 30 years. And therefore, at some point, we could no longer meet expectations of customers, and we would see customers leaving to competition. And that's when some new shareholders came in the capital, and I was brought in as CEO in order to transform the company, modernize, review the concept, and later on develop the business.
When did you join?
So I joined 2 years ago. And in 2 years, we've worked a lot on systems, organization, and data, because there was very little data in the company.
So if I were to visit an Alraya supermarket today, I cannot compare it with like an Edeka, Aldi, or Carrefour supermarket. It's old school is like a bad word, but it's like way more traditional, like from an assortment perspective, from like an experience perspective. But I see. I just had I had one guest also who came from the refrigerator industry selling to supermarkets, and they said that was like in the last 2 decades the biggest addition to many supermarkets, like adding big fridges. That I find at Alraya already, right?
Yes. So Alraya is, if you go to Alraya, you will see an older looking store. At the same time, you will see a choice of fresh item that is more developed than competition, and really connected to the type of consumers we have, and a store that has, I would say, more attractive price than in the past, because we have been developing a lot of entry price items to face the current situations in the kingdom. That is, the purchasing power has been going down for a lot of customers.
Really?
Therefore,
why is that? Because when I was invited to Saudi, or like to do this the expo here, I thought like money's coming out of the ground because of oil. Oil prices went up. Everybody must drive in supercars here. And now you're the first one telling me that the purchasing power is going down. Why?
Basically, the subsidies of the government to different utilities like electricity, like petrol, like different things that people consume is being reduced year by year, because in the long run it's not sustainable, so it makes sense. And then
well, it was
because
subsidized.
Everything is subsidized. There is electricity is subsidized, water is subsidized, petrol is subsidized, and therefore it used to make life very, very cheap in the kingdom. And step by step, this is less true. That's one aspect. Another aspect is that we have a VAT at 15% when other countries in the GCC have a VAT at 5%. So that also contributes to increasing the cost of living. And I would say overall, there is inflation and you have new areas of spending, like for example, parking in big towns used to be free. Now you have to pay for that. So there are a lot of areas where you have to pay or to pay a bit more than in the past. And as a result, the purchasing power of people tend to be more reduced. At the same time, keep in mind that the kingdom developed entertainment only in the past few years. And therefore, in the past, grocery shopping used to be entertainment. So the budget people would be keen to dedicate to grocery shopping was bigger. Today, they have to make a choice between going to a coffee shop and going to a supermarket, going to see a movie, watch a movie at the nearby theater, and going to a supermarket. So the part of their budget that they dedicate to grocery shopping has been also reduced.
Interesting. How much do they spend, like, from their monthly income for groceries? I think, like, Germany is the world record holder in, like, low spendings. You are from France, you must know it, because I think they're the world record holders on the other side. There's, like, most spending over there. But what is the share here? So how much of the monthly income is spent on groceries?
Well, it depends, obviously, on the incomes. I would say grocery spending would be much lower than in Europe, but it's still significant for families that are very big and have maybe only one income earner. You see here, you have families that live together. Sometimes you have 2 generations or 3 generations under the same roof. So depending on how many people actually work, you're going to have a level of income fairly different.
Okay, got it. And then one question, because I didn't understand it correctly. So you said one specialty of Alraya is they only have stores in the western part of Saudi Arabia. Why is that the case? So it's 30 years old. There was like enough expansion time moving also like in the other parts.
Sure. Well, actually, Saudi Arabia is many countries in one. There is, if you go to the West, you have one culture. And even within the West, you have different culture. And therefore, at the time, the owner had a sense of belonging to the West. He had networking to the West, and therefore, it seemed natural for them to build in the West. And then, step by step, the brand equity increased very much in the West, and therefore, it made a lot of sense to keep growing in the West because people liked very much the brand.
Okay, got it. Obviously, Commerce Talks has a strong focus on e-commerce. And now you're telling about a supermarket that actually came from a very, very traditional understanding how to serve groceries, with having a very, very interesting value proposition on bread, most bread for money. What's your perspective on e-commerce in your business, especially for Alraya?
Sure. So, we started e-commerce. We're working with different platforms today. The idea for us is to get acquainted with this business. At the same time, to make it sustainable, because e-commerce in Saudi Arabia, I don't know about other countries, but in terms when we're talking about grocery e-commerce or food e-commerce, to make it a sustainable business is a challenge. And therefore, we're learning with other companies that are a bit more expert than we are in this business in order to grow the business. The advantage for us is that we actually are able to reach different type of customers. That is, typically our customers in e-commerce are quite different from our customers in brick and mortar. We are also able to increase the catchment area of the stores. That is, with the deliveries, we are able to reach areas that we don't reach with the stores. So that's the interest.
From a customer perspective, if a customer in Jeddah, and I think they have they can go to other supermarkets like Carrefour, I don't know what's like the Western store here, would they expect a more traditional assortment in an Alraya supermarket where there's a special brand of yogurt or something else, which they wouldn't get at Carrefour because of the traditional history of Alraya? I would expect there's a couple of vendor relations only Alraya has, right?
What you say is very, very true. There is Alraya knows its customers for a very long time, and therefore, especially in fresh product, we have a whole range of unique items that are not available in other supermarkets. And therefore, we do have customers that are incredibly loyal to Alraya because they got used to this choice, they value it, and they cannot find it elsewhere. And also keep in mind that the company has been working for 30 years, and therefore we have some adults today that as a kid used to have Alraya bread and Alraya cheese every day when they were going to school, and therefore they have, I would say, emotional memories about this, and therefore they feel a sense of connection with Alraya.
But you're I think you said it like in our intro speech, you are like from a huge supermarket chain, so you've seen it like on the other way around. And now, if I imagine like all supermarket chain in Saudi Arabia, how do you expect like to manage not a turnaround, but how do you manage to like modernize it? Like e-commerce is like a super fast stretch, I guess, right? Obviously, there's like other topics that are like more that do have a bit more pressure on that side. It's like are like your colleagues at Alraya saying, "Cool, there's another good idea from Paul we haven't thought about yet. Let's do it," or it's like, do you have to do a lot of convincing?
Actually, for me, working in e-commerce is a driver for transformation. That is, people say, cool, why not? And then it's like suddenly they get into a very fast car and they get a bit frightened at first, but then they get a bit stimulated and say, ooh, that's interesting, very different. And therefore, the idea for us of testing with different partners e-commerce is to have a bit this revolution of the mindset to happen throughout the company. And in that area, it's very useful to have people more connected to different type of customers and another level of demand.
In Europe, I think the biggest trend we saw like in online grocery last 2 years was this ultra-fast delivery businesses. Some of them do have like huge issues now because of the P&L situation, but obviously it changed like the perception of many customers on grocery purchases overall. Did you see any ultra fast movements here in Saudi Arabia? Was it something that also happened?
So it is just starting. I believe that I like to make a difference between two types of foods, if you allow me. You have food as commodity, as utility, basic items. And you have food as pleasure. Okay? And the behavior of customers are very different depending on which food we're talking about. Let's say we're talking about bread. The experience can make a big difference. And price is no longer the only criteria for you to purchase. If you're talking about, let's say, sugar or oil, then you are more into basic food utility. So to answer your question, I believe that for food as utility, super fast delivery will become more and more prominent, because the idea is that I don't have sugar, I want to cook, so let's type on my phone and let's get the sugar, for example. So it's only the very beginning of this in Saudi Arabia, but I think this part will grow for food as basics. For food as pleasure, that's where the brick and mortar can make a big difference in terms of experience.
And what is the share of when it comes to food consumption or dinner behavior? You have people cooking at home versus out of home eating in restaurants versus home delivery, where we have a very strong delivery trend in many Western countries because of the income situation. I think the out of home eating will have a very, very complicated year 2023. Not so much cooking at home. I think it's something people are forgetting about how to do it. How is it here? Is it more traditional still?
So here in Saudi Arabia, it's more traditional, and it's also more traditional because a lot of households have house helpers, and these house helpers can cook.
But also the average household, do they have maids and helpers?
Yes, it's fairly cheap, and it's in the habits of many households.
Do you have a cook at home here?
I don't, because I like to cook myself, but actually most Saudis that I know, and even foreigners, have some kind of house helper, and therefore these people do a bit of the cooking. So therefore they are much more into still buying fresh items than packaged items or ready-made food. Now, if we talk about the future, the situation is a bit changing. It's a bit changing because with the development of women at work, you tend to have couples with double income and that are busy. And these people do not always have a house helper that is doing the cooking. And therefore, this type of consumers are keen to have food to go or food to eat or food to eat or food directly from the restaurants.
So women at work and women driving wasn't a big thing a couple of years ago. It only started recently here in Saudi?
That's correct. That's correct. It started about a couple of years ago. And it's really a revolution because that also contributed to the development of e-commerce, because previously a lot of households had drivers. So therefore, when they needed groceries, they used to send a driver to the supermarket. Now that women drive, they have forgone the driver. So no driver means if I have no time to go to the supermarket, the solution is e-commerce.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting. And do you see organic demand from your customers in the stores already? So do customers expect a certain level of e-commerce expertise from Alraya already?
There is demand, but there is still actually a very small segment of the market. So therefore, the grocery e-commerce is developing through subsidies. That is, it's very price sensitive. As soon as you have very low price, as soon as you offer the delivery, the business develop. But as soon as you practice the same pricing as a store and you have no special incentive, it's not yet such a big market.
Interesting. And from an assortment perspective, can I expect in a Alraya store lots of Western products? Because I have the feeling, regardless if I go to a Corte Inglés in Spain or Carrefour in France or an Edeka in Germany, it's more or less kind of the same products I'm finding there from an international. Sure. So it's a lot of Nestlé products. Yes. The dairy products are rather locally produced because of dairy ingredients. How is it here? Would I find many Western brands in the supermarket here?
Yes. So here you will find the biggest multinational brands in fast-moving goods. You're going to find them. And then in dairy, you will find a lot of local brands. So Ultra Fresh is really the domain of local brands. Packaged goods, you see a lot of international brands, and then you have also no names. That is, for budget-conscious customers, they are very much attracted by price, and that's why at Alraya we've been developing a private brand at entry level. That is, often you see in retail what competitors do is they build a private brand that is competing with the leader of the market.
Okay.
What we do is we developed a private brand that is really positioned at entry price to satisfy our customers.
do people still pay cash in your supermarkets, or is it like online payments? Oh, not online payments, but digital payments like debit cards?
It tends to. I mean, debit cards have increased tremendously with COVID, of course. In the countryside, is still cash dominated. In big towns now, digital is
like
the majority. Okay.
That's right.
Yes.
Usually that's like when people are talking about what's different in German supermarkets. It's like lots of people, like even like in supermarkets in Berlin or Hamburg, where everybody has like a debit card or even an iPhone who could pay are still paying. I don't know. It's kind of a German behavior. It's I would expect that like in France or so, there's not so many people paying cash. Only the poor ones that are collecting cash on the street. Oh, it's interesting to hear. But
like Saudis were very much into cash.
Yeah.
And I was
But
surprised.
they're not negotiating at the Alraya checkout, right? They're not negotiating the price. They pay what's demanded.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you say it's like a trader, it's a former trader area, trader nation, so which is like usually pretty much used to negotiating like a better price. And do you have already like ideas for a CRM system? Because many supermarkets introduced obviously like cards which you also registered like during the checkout, so you get like individualized coupons, a discount code, you learn more about the customer. Is this something which is common here in the region?
So that's not so fairly common. I mean, you have mostly fairly poor loyalty programs that are not so exciting from the customer viewpoint. We plan to change our IT systems next year. And therefore, to build a loyalty program that can be exciting for people. At the same time, what's the challenge here is that people are very basic, and it's all about discount, and they are very much focused on the discount.
It makes it even harder from the e-commerce perspective, because one of the drivers, the price drivers for e-commerce now in the Western world is obviously logistics costs, because unit economics for logistics is like it's definitely increasing. What about the logistics infrastructure then in the areas where you have your supermarket? So imagine you have this kind of online platform or some e-commerce experience. Yes. Are there reliable logistics partners you can that could like take the box from your supermarket or from a central warehouse, which is like the future solution, I guess, and bring it to the customers, or would you have to do it yourself?
So there are a lot of, for home delivery, there are a lot of specific companies that do it. I would say that the service level is not so fantastic, but compared to logistics in the kingdom, it's fairly okay. But at the same time, you see, when you use an outside company to do the delivery, how do you communicate the value of the brand? That's a question. There is sometimes you have very shabby delivery people that convey the purchase to the customer, and the service level, the personalization, the attention to the customer is not there. So here in this area, I would say cost-wise, I guess it's cheap compared to Europe, because the price of oil is very cheap here in the kingdom. Now, if you look at the quality of service, there is a lot to improve.
Okay, so and then obviously, if you want to improve like the quality of service and to have like a reliable service, then this adds like a lot of on the P&L on the cost side, which you have to add then on the checkout price. Okay, that's doesn't make your life easier when it comes to e-commerce, I would say.
You just are spot on the key issue with food e-commerce in the kingdom, at least. There is to make food e-commerce sustainable in the kingdom is extremely difficult, and I cannot imagine one player making money out of this today.
But the players in Europe or in the US, we're seeing they usually start with curbside pickup. They say, okay, you can select online, you can pay online, but we free you up from the task of going through the supermarket. We pack the box already. We put like a huge fridge or a huge container next to our checkout area where you can just pick the box. Or we put it even outside of the supermarket so you can like pick it up like 24 hours. Do you have any experience with that?
Here in the kingdom, for some reason, it doesn't exist much here yet. But for us, Alraya, I think that once we do e-commerce internally, we will start with this, because we believe that there is potential there in terms of sales. It still brings convenience, especially, when we have good promotions. A lot of customers are worried whether the promotion will be available or not available, and therefore, if they are far away from the store, they will think twice before driving to the store, because they say, hey, if I drive that long and don't get the item, I will have wasted my time. So that for such purchase, for example, that would allow us to grow sales without the whole cost of home delivery.
In Germany, we have a very dense supermarket infrastructure, so most people won't drive longer or further than 1,000 meters, maybe 2,000 meters. So the average consumer of an Alraya supermarket, how far is he willing to travel?
So it depends whether we're talking about towns or country. Because in big towns, people can drive 15, 20 minutes away, typically. If you are in the countryside, they can drive an hour or more, because you have a lot of villages. Usually you have a small town, the desert, and a lot of hamlets all around. So actually also we are a neighborhood store by essence. We become destination in the countryside. And therefore, for these people, it's very important that they make sure that what they want to buy will be available.
And those people, how often do they come to buy? Every week or every day?
These people typically comes once or twice a month. But when they buy in bulk. They really buy very large quantities.
But they are able to plan their monthly consumption, so they know in advance what they're going to eat and drink next weeks.
Typically, what they're going to do is buy the commodities once a month, and then the fresh items, they will buy them on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. Because obviously, there's different buying behaviors in every country. In Germany, you have the standard basket size, 20 euros or so. People rather come every day or every second day. Nobody's able to plan anymore. Everything needs to be spontaneously available, which makes life for many supermarkets a bit harder. And then maybe let's talk about the market structure overall, because in other countries, obviously, you saw the growth of bigger supermarkets, hypermarkets. So and I'm a big believer in specialized supermarkets, for good value for money, which can serve the customers on spot. I'm not such a big believer of hypermarkets, but it's really about what is the consumption trend in the country. What have you seen so far here in the kingdom?
So this year the trend is for people to go more to pop and mom shop. Keep in mind that in the kingdom, modern trade is only 50% of the market.
Modern trade
is only 50% of the whole grocery market.
And the rest is buying in smaller
pop and mom shop.
In Mexico, those small tienditas where people are selling out of their living room.
More or less.
Really?
And you have more than 30,000 of these small pop and mom shops, and therefore, when people want to dedicate less budget to groceries, one way is to go to these nearby stores, because they know they won't have much temptation. So actually, even though individually they will pay more for the items, the total budget spent will be less. So this year, that is a bit the trend of consumption. For Alraya, fortunately, with our new presentation and development of fresh range and the different improvement we've done in our stores, we have a double-digit customer growth. But for supermarkets, this year there is less visits than in the past.
Interesting, because just a guest in the podcast was the e-commerce manager from Mercado Maico, which is serving, they are kind of a distributor for the small mom and pop stores, and they say, so obviously one of the reasons is you can buy in smaller chunks. You don't need to buy the one liter ketchup in the supermarket. You get it like in 100 milliliter doses. But the other answer is that they have a lot of customers that are living on a day-to-day budget because they don't know what kind of income they will have like next day, and this really influences their buying behaviors. It's also like, do you also have like in lower income groups this kind of very volatile income here in Saudi?
I'm not sure we have such volatile income, but I do think that a lot of low-income people do not really manage their budget. And the advantage of Pop and Mom Shop is that they know the customers of the neighborhood and they provide free credit. So that's also an advantage for them. Now, on your remarks, I would say that we have developed lately smaller packages. And even these smaller packages, we can see that their sales are going up very much. So a lot of people are less inclined to spend big on something, even on product like detergent, for example. Detergent, we tend to have a development of sales on both extremes. There is either the big bag of 40 kilo of detergent.
40?
Yes. Or the very small bags of 125 grams. And then there's going to be promotions.
Interesting. Any other consumer trends that are sticking out from your point of view, which you have never seen in other markets?
Well, actually, the kingdom has changed tremendously. Because when I arrived 11 years ago, price was only the fifth criteria for people to select the store. And I was very surprised because I have worked in retail in 10 different countries and I've never seen that. Usually price is among the top 2 factors with location. And here it was number 5, and I said, come on, what is this? It's not possible. And then I saw year by year it was going up, and now it's number 1. So I would say this year people are really price driven, and you tend to have a bit of polarization of purchase. That is, you have either the biggest brand or the cheapest no-name. But brands that are B brand or C brands tend to suffer much more today in terms of sales because people don't want to compromise. That is, either they want to invest and they say, okay, I want to buy a brand, but I want the best brand, and it's okay. Or they go for the no-name at entry price.
Interesting. What are the other criteria? So I guess selection is one criteria. Price.
Yeah, well, you have typical. Now you have. It's really in line with the international norms. That is, you have price, location.
Location, yeah.
Okay, and choice typically.
Price, location, choice, and
yes, and in Saudi Arabia, people are consuming a lot of fruits and vegetables. So fruits and vegetables is also a key to attract people. And the key is to have not always the best price, but to have the best price value. People are keen on price value. You see, this is a country of desert. And for a lot of these people, fruits and vegetables are like candies. They still value the taste. They still value
so usually
eating fresh
also
vegetable.
Consumes a bigger part in the supermarket?
It does.
Yeah?
It does. When I compare to the space allocated to produce in Europe as here, there is no comparison. And if I look at the number, the quantity we sell huge quantities.
And the most of the products, are they grown domestically? Do they come from Saudi Arabia, or do you import most of the products?
For fruits, most is imported. For vegetable, now more and more local farms are developing, and therefore our objective at Alraya is to reach 80% of our sales with local vegetable.
And what are the main food producers? I guess like some of the Southeast Asian countries because of the climate, or India. Where's it coming from?
From all over the world.
Okay.
And I would say Holland is a big exporter of vegetables.
they are so big that they're exporting into the kingdom?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. And they're obviously exporting their production capabilities, because that's what you're going to build here, right? This kind of greenhouses and some irrigation systems.
So, for example, Dutch industry is leading here in the country the development of a greenhouse for hydroponic agriculture. Hydroponic is growing big, especially for tomatoes. You see, the basic diet in vegetable is cucumber, onion, and tomatoes.
And then one last question, because I'm super interested, so it's like how this works out. Because when I'm talking like to grocery managers in the European countries, obviously one big chunk of income is like the alcohol-based drinks, so on the beverages side. And you see, like if you go like to a beverages assortment in like European supermarkets, it's huge. 50% alcohol, 50% juice and water. So obviously most of the people, almost nobody is spending like money on alcohol here. What kind of pleasure drink do they have? Is this kind of a specialized coffee then, or is it like a different set of drinks you're offering in the supermarket?
Yes, drinks is a fairly big category, not as much as in Europe because there is no alcohol, but still a fairly big category. And the new trends right now, you have 3 trends: energy drinks, which is really a big chunk of sales.
But the international brands, Monster, Red Bull.
So you have a few international brands and a lot of no names. Then you have all the what they call iced coffee drink, that is very fashionable. And then you have all kind of healthy drink, whether it's healthy tea or healthy milk or non-dairy milk or these kind of things. So that's really, these are 3 segments that are growing fairly fast today. There has been in the kingdom, has developed what we call a sin tax. So what is bad for you, there is a special tax so that you are not inclined or indulge yourself too much into this. And therefore this is impacting all beverage that has sugar in it. And that almost doubled the price of these items.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, but sugar itself also has the sin tax?
Nope. But the beverage with a lot of sugar have that.
Cake has a sin tax?
Cake do not have sin tax.
Yes. It's like then I understand much better because it's served here all the day.
Yes.
Paul, what a pleasure to have you on the podcast. It was really cool. Really learned a lot about the grocery industry here, and wish you best luck, obviously, with e-commerce.